Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Debbie Desmond, and I am the Director of Communications / Public Information Officer / Media Relations Manager of the District Attorney's Office, whatever you want to call it. I am honored to be here with DA Craig Watkins and DPD Chief David Brown, as well as Sheriff Lupe Valdez, and also Pastor Frederick Haynes III. We really appreciate all of you coming here for the second town hall meeting. We told you there would be a second meeting, so we are so humbled, so honored that Pastor Haynes would allow us to borrow his sanctuary. We really are very, very appreciative of it. And we thank you all for coming out. We know that the weather is a little bit gloomy and that you had to, navigate some traffic. So again, thank you so much for being here. We want to set the rules up front so everybody knows how this town hall meeting will work. We learned from the last one. It was not perfect. We definitely admit that. It was our first one, and we hope that we learn from those mistakes and that this one will be much more fluid and just a better experience for everyone involved. The town hall meeting is from 7 to 9. It is 7:15, so it's from 7:15 to 9:15. We really appreciate it. Chief Brown had a prior speaking engagement. It's 9/11, a big day for law enforcement, and he was there to pay tribute to some of those fallen officers in the 9/11 event. Dallas was very active in DPD and sending their officers there, and we appreciate him coming here tonight and making this. So again, thank you very much. Let's get the rules out of the way up front. Each person, the opportunity here is for you to get your question answered. That is the goal. We want you to have the opportunity to get your question answered. So you will have 30 seconds to ask your question. The panel here will take about 2 minutes to answer it. Raise your hand if you have a question. We learned last time it did not work to have you standing at the mic, and I will get your question as soon as we get started here. Don't raise your hand just yet. We have a little bit of time. Thank you so much. It's an eager group here, right? But we will have basically your wireless mics, your Oprah-type moments with Friendship West Baptist church members who are so gracious to handle the mics, control the mics so that you don't have to, and so that we will have a more time-efficient experience. If you could raise your hands in the aisles, those with the mics, if you can raise your, just turn around. If there's a mic right here, stand up please if you have a mic, and they will be roaming and going to you as you have your hand raised. And so they will have you to stand, and you may have to come to the edge of the aisle to get your question answered, but that is how we're going to do it tonight. We think it will be more efficient than to have you stand in a long line for almost 2 hours and not get your question answered. Also, because the goal is to get every question answered, you can email your question if you do not get a chance to ask it tonight. You can email your question to dpdtownhall@dallascity.com, and we will put that up for you. Well, I can't see it, but I know the media group here will put that up for you on the big screen. But again, if you have your pens handy or your smartphones, it is dpdtownhall@dallascity.com. And I'll make sure to remind you of that also at the end of the evening, and they will put it up for you on the big screen so that you know that you will get your questions answered if you don't get them answered here today. We will have the same amount of time rule. We cannot make exceptions. So regardless, we have a lot of different stories out here, and we can empathize with everyone's situation, but we do have to stick to everyone getting the same amount of time to speak. So hopefully you won't have to be interrupted in your train of thought, but again, we're going to stick with that 30-second rule of asking a question and 2 minutes for the panelists to answer. Before we get started, Pastor Freddie Haynes wanted me to basically address some of the things that didn't happen in the last town hall meeting that we wanted to just kind of get out of the way up front. There were a lot of questions about indictments and the way that indictments work. And I worked in the media. For those of you who are from the Dallas community, I worked at Channel 8 News for 12 years. I didn't even understand the way the grand jury process worked until I got here at the DA's office. And I've been here for about 2 years, and I think I finally have it all figured out. So it is hard for the regular average person just to understand this process. The grand jury process is basically the gateway to the criminal justice system, if you will. Everything starts there. And the grand jury is independent of the DA, of the police chief, of the sheriff. It's independent, meaning they don't pick the grand jurors.
The judges do. And I don't know if people knew that. I certainly didn't know it as a reporter and anchor when I worked in the news business, and I'm explaining it to the media, and I wanted to explain it to everybody else. So the judges, they appoint the grand jurors. And the grand juror's job is to look at the evidence that is presented. The assistant district attorneys present all of the evidence, and they take a neutral position when it comes to police shootings, because the goal is to make sure that nobody thinks we have an agenda. So we don't recommend to the grand jury, who again, those grand jurors are picked by the judges, that you indict someone, a police officer involved in a shooting, or not indict them. And we get flack from both sides, the victims, and quite frankly, even police officers. Everybody wants their point to be represented, but we do not recommend either way, whether you true bill something or no bill it, whether you indict it or not. We simply give all of the evidence, all of the facts, and the grand jurors have to look at that, take their time, and decide if there is probable cause. What does probable cause mean? Probable cause means to the average person, is there enough sufficient evidence here to basically take this case to trial? That is the grand juror's job, to look at the evidence and determine probable cause. Is there enough here to take it actually to trial? So I wanted to let you know, again, the DA does not indict, police chief doesn't indict, the sheriff does not indict. They're grand jurors. Who are the grand jurors? They could be your neighbors. They could be church members at your church. They could be at your school if you teach there. They are just folks out in the community who have decided they wanted this duty. And they spend about 6 months on a grand jury, a panel, if you will, before their time is up and a new grand jury comes in. So if you want to be a grand juror, get to know your judges. They're the ones who appoint you. So I wanted to get that. Does everybody understand the way the grand jury process works? If you don't, and I hope that that was helpful for you. Absolutely. If somebody gets indicted, it just means there's enough evidence, again, that there's probable cause that that person can be taken to trial. The jurors then determine your guilt or innocence. So that's a very, very good point. Indictment just means that the grand jurors have decided there is enough evidence to take this to trial. It does not mean you are guilty at that point or not. And I did want to make sure that you know another question that Pastor Haynes said he was getting. How many indictments have we had? Some people think there have not been any indictments of police officers. In the past 365 days, there have been 3 indictments. Again, in the past 365 days, there have been 3 indictments. Former Officer Patrick Tudor was indicted for manslaughter on 11/8/13. Former Officer Amy Wilburn was indicted for aggravated assault by a public servant on 4/24/14. And former Officer Carden Spencer was indicted for aggravated assault by a public servant on 4/29/14. And when I say former, they could be on administrative leave or what have you, but these are the officers that have been indicted. So I wanted to get that out of the way. Now I'd like to introduce Pastor Frederick Haynes, the Honorable Pastor Frederick Haynes. We thought that this would be a terrific choice for him to host this meeting because he's been involved in Ferguson, Missouri. He's been down there and he's supporting the community effort there to get justice served, and he also is joining the community and calling for police reform. So without further ado, I will introduce the Honorable Freddie Haynes. Again, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Let me welcome warmly each and every one of you. We appreciate so much your presence. I also want to say a word of thanks to our public servants who recognize that there is a lot of pain. There is a history of hurt and injustice in our community, especially as it relates to policing, the criminal justice system that has been anything but just in too many instances. And the sad reality is that Ferguson, Missouri is not limited to Ferguson, Missouri. There is a Ferguson near you. And so I appreciate not only your presence here tonight, but the fact that our district attorney, Craig Watkins, our chief of police, Chief Brown, as well as our sheriff, Lupe Valdez, recognize the pain, recognize that we have to get answers, we have to move toward healing, and we have to move toward a sense that justice is served for everyone and not just for persons who are in power. So as far as I'm concerned, tonight has to be a night that moves us toward healing, that moves us toward a sense of partnership, that moves us toward a sense of we are in this together, and we're going to have to learn to live together as brothers and sisters, as Dr. King said, or perish together as fools. And so with that being the case, I want to open up with a word of prayer. I want to again thank you, each and every one of you, for being here. You show by your presence your love for the community, but also your commitment to justice, to equality, to liberation and empowerment. And that's what we believe. So let's go to God in prayer, and then I will present our panel. God, we thank you so much that you indeed, as a God of justice, a God who is sovereign and in control, you have arranged, even, oh God, through what has happened that has been negative, an opportunity for good to come out of evil. Right now, I cover in prayer those whose hearts are hurting because of what they have been through, because of the painful losses that they have experienced. I am asking and claiming by faith that they will feel your healing touch and your comforting presence and peace of mind. And then, oh God, I pray in a special way that you would grant us wisdom and guidance and a sense of love one for another, that we, oh God, under your guidance may move toward real justice so that peace can be experienced and attained. And we ask it all in the name of our Lord and Liberator, even Jesus the Christ, we pray. Amen and thank God. Thank you so much. Now, what I want to do right now is present our district attorney, Craig Watkins. Craig Watkins gives brilliant leadership, and I want to present him right now, that he will again open up with 2 minutes. And what I'm going to do to basically get out of the way, we're going to have the district attorney to speak, Craig Watkins, and then we're going to have our sheriff, Lupe Valdez, to speak, and after the sheriff, we will have our chief of police, Chief Brown, to share with us. And so we'll go in that order. After that, we will have a time of Q&A. Again, your questions, please, because we want everyone to have a chance to get answers. It's very important that we get answers tonight. 30 seconds for your question, and then they'll have 2 minutes to respond, because again, for me, it is vital that we get answers, that we move toward healing, and that we believe that justice can be served, and we increase our confidence in this system. So would you please now receive our district attorney, Craig Watkins.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Haynes for opening up his church to allow us to come in to talk about this very important issue. He's been an advocate about criminal justice reform for a long time. He's on MSNBC every other night talking about these issues. So I'd advise that you watch those, because this is our opportunity to really make a difference. I grew up in this neighborhood. I went to the high school right across the street. Chief Brown, he went to a rival high school. I think it's called South Oak Cliff. Golden Bay. Yeah. So we both have experiences as relates to the criminal justice system that, what you would imagine that the traditional DA would have, or the traditional police chief would have. We bring something different to the table that those traditional individuals didn't have. And so our goal is to make the criminal justice system work for everyone. For everyone. There's no motive for us to marginalize individuals because, well, we've experienced the same thing that you experience in this community. And we want to make these things work. We have a Constitution in the United States, and I will submit to you that folks that have been marginalized are better served to implement what the Constitution says than those folks that have benefited from being Americans. And when you look at us on this dais, you have an African-American police chief, you have an African-American DA, you have an Hispanic sheriff. We're trying to make this thing work. And so I know it's difficult, and I know there are a lot of individuals that are hurt out there for some things that have happened, but you have to give us the opportunity to make the difference. It takes time. Listen, there's a DA by the name of Henry Wade. He served for 36 years. There's a DA by the name of John Vance. He served 12 years. There's a DA by the name of Bill Hill. He served 8 years. So let's do the math. 48, 54 years of those DAs. And I've only been the DA for 8. Not even 8. It'll be 8 in January. And so I'll just ask you that you give us the opportunity to make this thing right. And what we're finding is that folks are looking at the Dallas Police Department, the Dallas Sheriff's Department, and the Dallas County District Attorney's Office as a model of what law enforcement is. They're coming from all over the country asking us, how do you do it? And even folks that are not even in this country, they're coming to us asking us how you do it. And so as we go through this process and we talk about this, we understand your pain. You need to let us know your pain. And we're going to do everything we can to make this right, because you in this audience, you just want to be treated normally. You want to be treated fairly. You want to be able to pick up the phone and call the police, because when I was growing up, we didn't call the police because we were afraid of them. That's just the reality. But now, you have Chief Brown, you have me, you have Loopy. You can call the police today in 2014, and you'll be treated fairly. So let's just, have a, frank discussion on what's going on and how we can make it work better. You all know that the reason I'm doing this is because we put a civil rights unit together, which will actually investigate police officer shootings independently of the police department. But this is not to say that there's something wrong with the police department, because I have all the faith in the leadership that we have now. But just like Chief Brown, Chief Brown has been the chief for how long? 4 years. Do you think he can change things in 4 years, which took years that happened? So give him an opportunity. Give Sheriff Luby Valdez an opportunity to make things better. And so we are here to listen, and we're here to express to you what we're going to do to make things better. So I want to thank you.
I'm last?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're last. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for being here. Good evening. Once again, thank you for being here. A dialogue cannot happen unless there's two parts. We are a passionate people. We laugh, we get angry, we do all kinds of things in a passionate way, and we understand that. I think we're very clear about we're here to hear some of the pain, some of the anger, some of everything that has happened that we need to dialogue with. Most of our complaints in the Sheriff's Department come from the jail, and I'm sure you all are aware of that. I made sure when I first came on that we put cameras in the most sensitive areas in the jail, and we're still looking at continuing with cameras. And oftentimes, you don't have to tell us what the issue is. We can see it. And I think all of us have spoken on the fact that we all come from some part of discrimination in our lives. All three of us have suffered from some kind of discriminations in our life. So we can understand what we have an empathy as to what it may feel like. We'll never be able to totally understand somebody else's issue, but at least we can head in that direction by trying to keep communicating with you. I honestly believe that in order to have a just city, the police have to be just, and that's why we're here. We're here because we want to continue building on whatever things we've started to build before to make it a justful place. We're here to serve and protect, and we need to be held accountable to serve and protect correctly. There's a lot of good things that the officers do, and I daily get reminded of that, as well as the other. And there's a lot of good things that we do. But if there's areas where we're failing, then we need for you to tell us, and tell us in a way that we can hear you, and therefore, with you, try to do something about it. Believe me, all three of us have somewhere else to be tonight, if it isn't with our families or somewhere else. But we care enough to come here and listen to where it is we need to continue to grow. And be patient with us as we continue to try and serve and protect you better.
If you bear with me for a minute, I'm going to go through a list of things that have occurred in the Dallas Police Department since I've been chief. On Cinco de Mayo 2010 is when I was appointed chief, May 5th. And it's been a whirlwind since I've been chief these last 4 years. But I'm a 31-year veteran of the Dallas Police Department, hired on in 1983, and I worked my way through the ranks. Again, I'm a product of South Oak Cliff High School, go Golden Bears. So I'm not going to make any comments about Carter High School. I'm going to go ahead and go right to my deal. So if you hadn't been paying attention, it's been quite a bit of work done these last 4 years. We formalized a process of concurrent investigation with the FBI Civil Rights Unit. We implemented, for the first time in DPD, a use of force reporting system where we can track all of our officers' use of force. We implemented and re-implemented and reinvigorated a digital review recorder. That's the in-car dash cam review, where we look for violations that our officers do. We develop a foot pursuit policy. We enhance our consensual search policy. If you listen to racial profiling complaints, it's about that I was searched and you don't search other folks. So we require our officers to get written or recorded consent to search your vehicle. And not many cities in the country have that. We implemented a mandatory TASER training policy for all officers. We researched best practices of critical incidents from institutional failures from other departments in the country. We assembled a community policing team for Dixon Circle. We implemented Police Athletic League, Blue in the School, Junior Police Academy, and Police Explorer programs for our young people, reaching over 92,000 young people in our community in the last 4 years. We made adjustment to our written statements. We video every written statement that we take from our witnesses at shooting scenes. We audio and video every written statement. We convened a use of force training team to enhance our training from once every 2 years to training every year on use of force. First time in our department's history that we had every year training on use of force. We implemented recently more psychological services follow-up for our officers who are involved in critical incidents. We requested over 200 body cameras, over 2,000 tasers for our officers. We are currently evaluating education-based discipline for our officers to change their behavior when they get in trouble. And we are currently about to publish for the first time information on our use of deadly force online for everyone to see. This will be detailed briefings of all of our police shootings dating back to 2003 to current. Since I've been chief and I got the bruises to prove it, I've fired over 66 officers and suspended over 341, the most than any chief in our history at this point in their career. And I recognize that that's not good enough. I recognize we've got more work to do. And I can just tell you, my command staff is here, and officers from some of our police unions and associations are here. We recognize that public trust and confidence is fragile, hard to earn, easy to lose, and that one split-second incident can change all this work I just recounted to you. And I just wanted you to recognize not only are we here to listen to you and not take what you say for granted, we're going to take it to heart. I'm going to take notes. My staff's going to take notes. But just recognize our officers live in a world of split seconds. They go from good cop to a split-second decision to bad cop, facing indictment. That's the world we live in. And I'm going to end with two controversial policies that I haven't really explained well to you all. And the two are, we allow officers 3 days before they have to give us a statement after a police shooting, and we allow our officers to review any video evidence prior to writing a statement to us, right? So that's been very controversial, but let me explain. When we have a police shooting, we are conducting a criminal investigation. Under the Constitution of our country, every officer has the same constitutional rights as every citizen, and that right is to remain silent. They don't have to talk to us at all. We have negotiated a 3-day rule to talk to us based on their employment. But if we have to invoke their employment rights to get their statement, those statements then cannot be used in a criminal investigation. That's the Constitution. And if we use their employment as duress that we're going to fire you because you don't give us a statement, then we fired that person for invoking their constitutional rights. I know all of you work, so just think about your employer threatening to fire you for exercising your constitutional rights. So we would lose that. And so we negotiated a 3-day when we actually have no leverage to make an officer tell us what happened under a criminal investigation. So we've negotiated that. Now, the second part is we'll allow officers to see video prior to giving us a statement. And so we thought this process out like we did the first. So say we don't allow that person to view the video and they write a statement. Our officers have lawyers at the scene because they're under a criminal investigation doing shootings. And there's a principle called discovery, right? It's a legal principle of discovery where the accused has the right to see the evidence against them. And so we don't have leverage to make them give us a statement, nor can we withhold evidence that we have against them. So these two controversial types of policies we put in place, the 3-day rule and allow them to see video, is consistent with our Constitution. And if we try to do otherwise, we would lose once it's obviously gone through some type of employment law action where the officers feel aggrieved. We would lose. And I'm just facing the reality of what employment law says, what constitutional criminal law says, and negotiating the best place we can be as a department, as a community, to get the facts in a fair way that doesn't create an adversarial issue where we won't win anyway. We can't make them give statements, and we'd have to turn over the video to them anyway in a discovery. And so we're in a better place having 3 days to get it and allow them to see the video that they would have the right to see anyway. So I hope that makes sense, and I'm going to sit down and then I'll listen to the questions and answer those that I can. Pastor?
Thank you so much. Now, again, we want to hear from you, and so I'm going to ask if you have a question that you would hold your hand up, prepare to stand up, and we will have those with the mics to come to you so that we can have a time of dialogue. Thank you.
Okay. I have 2 questions. The first one's for the district attorney. If it makes sense going forward to add staff and to have a more thorough and independent investigation of police homicide, does it not also make sense to re-examine the more than 50 cases since 2003 where unarmed people were shot to death by Dallas police? Second question's for the police chief. Where are the officers today who killed Jason Harrison? That is, Officer John Rogers, Officer Andrew Hutchins, and where is the officer who shot to death Andrew Gannier, an unarmed man, on August 10th? His name is Antonio Hudson. Thank you.
Sure thing. I think that's a great question. When we came into office in 2007, we made a point of re-examining cases, i.e. the fact that we looked at cases where a person may have been wrongfully convicted. But we didn't re-examine those cases unless we had new evidence to give us the impetus to do that. Now, if there's new evidence as relates to these police officer shootings, then we'll look into that. And so that would be the spark for us to look into those cases if there's new evidence.
What about
Sir. Oh, you have to raise your hand.
So I had the second part to the question. You wanted the officer status of the Jason Harris shooting and the officer status of the Antonio Hudson shooting. I'm familiar with the Harris shooting. You have to make me familiar with the Hudson. I can give you the status of the officers. The Jason Harris.
It's the officer. The victim's Andrew Gannier.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
An unarmed man shot on August 10th.
Okay. So I'm familiar with that. So the status of Jason Harris officers, there was body camera video worn by both officers of that shooting, and the officers gave statements. The statements were consistent with what was on the video. The status of those officers is that they are back on regular duty. They served 5 days of administrative leave. We did a thorough investigation. And then what happens is after our criminal investigation of the facts, talking to witnesses, gathering physical evidence, and then we wait for the ME for the evidence from the ME on trajectory of bullets and entrance and exit wounds. Then we turn that portion of our investigation over to the district attorney's office. District attorney's office then does what Debbie explained, present, and they objectively present to the grand jury for the grand jury to rule. So it's in process of, in the DA's office, to be presented, not yet presented to the DA, but in the process of being presented by the DA to the grand jury, but the officer status is back on regular duty. And the same is the case of the officer in the other shooting. They're back on regular duty. They served the 5 days on administrative leave, and they're back. Their statements were consistent with the evidence that we gathered during the investigation, and that investigation case is turned over to the DA for scheduling for presentation to the grand jury. They're both back on regular duty is the straight answer.
Did they explain why they shot Jason Harrison in the back twice?
Yes, they gave statements, and those statements were consistent with what we saw on the video. And I don't know if any of the Harris family is here tonight. I want to be careful how I proceed forward since it hadn't been presented to the grand jury yet. But I think I answered your question. They did write statements. They did explain what they did. What they said, what they wrote is consistent with what is on video. That will all be gathered and presented to the grand jury by the DA.
Good evening. My name is Audrey Hayes. I have more solutions than questions, so I'm going to use my 2 minutes and 30 seconds counter to share those things. Thank you to the DA, the chief, and the sheriff, as well as Pastor Haynes, for creating this opportunity. The prior town hall meeting exposed the mutual, deep-rooted emotions of frustration, anger, pain, and skeptical hopes of everyone. Some of the grievances and concerns that were shared at the prior meeting was the communication is not transparent when there is an officer-involved shooting. There is a lack of urgency to provide any information to the family. In cases that have video footage, the family is delayed or denied viewing the footage. There is a lack of officer convictions where civil rights violations are suspected. Now, my proposed solutions are schedule consistent town hall meetings that allow citizens to outline the details of their civil rights violation. Use this information to analyze the frequency of these occurrences and cases. This should be one of the responsibilities of the Civil Rights Unit. This creates a foundation of transparency and accountability for all parties. The community will research and educate themselves and others of their civil rights. There will be a strong focus to educate individuals that are more likely to experience civil rights violations. The Civil Rights Unit should be directed by an independent investigator. This will eliminate potential bias due to prior affiliation. This will establish a foundation that the Civil Rights Unit's sole purpose will be to protect the citizens' civil rights. The Civil Rights Unit will clearly define, communicate, and enforce the separation between necessary force and excessive force. Examples such as a suspect in any circumstances cannot be punched or kicked. Officers cannot use chokeholds. Officers cannot apprehend a citizen without probable cause or the suspicion of committing a crime. Community organizations and the Civil Rights Unit will work diligently together to maintain transparent communication and enforcement.
Let's do this. Mr. Haynes, I really appreciate the fact that you brought solutions. Let me ask this, how can she get that to you? Because I think that is substantive and helpful. How can she get that to you?
I have staff here who's ready to get with you and take that information. Where are they? Can y'all do it now so we'll make sure it get done? The sergeant is coming to you now to take that information from you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask that we do this also. Again, as important as that is, I want everyone to have a chance, okay? So please, 30 seconds, not 2 minutes and 30 seconds, all right? 30 seconds so that everyone can have a chance to be heard. That will help us, all right? Thank you. All right, next.
Chief David Brown, let me stand up, excuse me. Chief David Brown, I'm Terrence Swanson. We have had, my first question is to you, we've had instances where we've had engagement with police officers in the past with the Dallas Police Department. You yourself have received complaints, myself have put you under subpoena. You fired Joshua Vaughn March 1st, 2013, the same time they dropped a criminal case off of me. My question to you is, what type of checks and balances have been put in place to ensure that the internal affairs process is adequate? And my question to you, Craig Watkins, is there's a law on the books, Chapter 9, Texas Penal Code 9.31, subsection C. It gives the ordinary citizen the right to use force against a police officer. If one of our people would have to use force against a police officer, would you be quick to prosecute us?
Checks and balances with internal affairs, I'll answer that. All the internal affairs cases are presented by to the Citizens Review Board for their review. Our Citizens Review Board does not have subpoena power, but our internal affairs staff presents those cases. There is question and answer in that Citizens Review Board. It's not a fluff process. There's substance to that question and answer. There's a lot of follow-up in the Citizens Review Board. I would encourage you to attend those question and answer. I think you'll be surprised at how much follow-up is asked of those representatives on that board and how much we go back to them and explain and really sometimes redo some investigations because of some of the things that those folks bring up, and that's kind of the straight answer on checks and balances of IED.
As it relates to pursuing a prosecution, as it relates to a potential assault, we've made a determination in the Dallas County District Attorney's Office, and Chief Brown has also got outside funding for body cameras. And so if there's an issue that happens where a police officer is assaulting someone, it would be on video. We've made a determination from the Dallas County District Attorney's Office to provide $50,000 to police officer agencies so they can have body cameras. So if these issues come up, then we will have it on video, so there won't be a question as to whether or not the potential suspect is telling the truth or the police officer is telling the truth. And so that's how we're going to address that issue.
And I'm sorry, I can't resist. I'm from Oak Cliff. Don't fight the police, bro. Don't fight the police. That's one of the escalating points when you're in that situation where I'm sure emotions are running high. Fighting the police is not the best solution. Like DA Watkins says, you know, we're moving quickly toward body cameras. The officers' actions will be on camera. But my best advice to you, and really to everyone tonight, don't fight the police. And I'm just being straight up.
To the chief and the DA and the sheriff, thank you for your work that you've done in the community. You're to be applauded by your efforts. But from a little boy up, I was told that the citizens' taxpayer money that went to the police officers and other employees of the city that received taxpayers' money, they were our servants to a certain extent. They were employed to render service and assist us in safety activities, and the rest of it is understandable. However, I was wanting to know if you emphasized to your officers that you train and speak with and have counsels with that they are the servants of the community and of the citizens, and if so, do you have a procedure whereby you can supply the citizens with a list of do's and don'ts that the police should know about and the citizens know about, and therefore we would be more intelligently educated about what to expect when we encounter one? Thank you.
Very good question. We have a Citizens Police Academy that I encourage you all to get with, and I'd like to pass that information. So does the sheriff. The DA has a program to teach the community some of the legal points at the DA's office, and so we all have outreach programs to the community that we have it both in. We have a Hispanic Citizen Police Academy, and we have English-speaking Citizens Police Academy, because we really want to get you all involved with us in helping us protect you. We can't do it by ourselves, and that's why I really emphasize that one part about fighting the police, because in fights, we're fighting for our lives, because we can't lose a fight and lose our gun. If we lose a fight and lose our gun, we lose our lives. And so even though you don't have a gun, when you fight us, there is a gun in play in the fight. And if we get incapacitated, our gun is exposed, and you know we've had officers killed when they lose fights and get their guns taken from them, and that is a key point of one of the things you mentioned that we talk about in the Citizen Police Academy, some do's and don'ts that we teach our officers and do's and don'ts for citizens. So please, I'll get my staff to come to you, and we can get your name and can give you those dates for the Citizen Police Academy.
We have a Citizens Prosecutor Academy. It's 6 weeks long. You can go to dallasda.com to find out about how you can register to be a part of that academy, and we take you through the entire criminal justice process after the police submit a case to us, so you can see how things work. So I would implore that you all go to our website and apply to be a part of that academy.
Also, I think it's good to, right quick, the black lawyers as well as the National Black Police Association, they prepared what to do when stopped by the police. And it's very instructive, and I think we have Fred, would you please stand up? Fred Barrow has copies of these brochures, so please get this. I think it's very instructive and helpful.
And I just wanted to add, we also have a Citizens Academy. We also have a Citizens Academy in which you are able to see how our officers are trained and actually be able to experience some of the ways they're trained. So just get a hold of us, and you're welcome to come to our academy.
Okay, 30 seconds, please.
My name is Marilyn Mays. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I live in the real South Dallas. My question is for you, Chief. Is there any budget for incentive for officers to come back and live in our community and be our friends and our neighbors? All our money is going to the suburbs. And the second thing, is there any return or money for return for boots on the ground, neighborhood policing, or the storefronts that we used to have and really depend on?
Boy, it's like you were in our meeting today. We had a long conversation amongst me and my command staff about the very issue you bring up, living in the city. And the point is not living in the city, it's do you know anything about the city you police also? And so most of our officers don't live in the city, and we don't have any programs to encourage them to live in the city, nor any budget. We want, though, to fill in that gap, even though we don't have funds for it. There's a need for our officers to be aware of the history of Dallas. I'm a fourth-generation Dallasite, so I know a lot about Dallas that I just don't believe our young cops that patrol your neighborhoods know. Many cops don't know anything about Santos Rodriguez, even though everybody from Dallas know about Santos Rodriguez. No one, think we're hiring people that weren't born until the 90s now, in the late 80s. And so they don't know anything about the 1988 congressional hearings here in Dallas. And so we're right now, and I need your help with this, creating training programs that give a historical history of Dallas and historical Dallas police citizen relationships, all the high points, all the low points for our young cops as we hire them, because we want to, even though we can't right now do programs to get them to move back, we can acclimate them more to in an immersion process. I would like to see a day where we soon, our officers, our recruits come to Friendship West, or go to a Jewish synagogue up north part of Dallas, or a Hispanic Catholic church, LGBT. I mean, you just think of all the cultural diversity, the Asian community, where most cops have a very narrow view of Dallas based on the beat they patrol without any perspective, context on the history of Dallas. Living here would help, but we don't have that right now. The next best thing is the more acclimation, more cultural awareness, but in an immersion type process where you really get a feel, get to know people, where they are, their experiences, the history, and it's a rich history that's good and bad. So your point is well taken, and we're moving quickly to that. We expect to have a draft for a program this year and get it off the ground where we can have our young cops going through and getting a perspective and context about the history of Dallas.
Okay, I have two questions. My name is Chong. I'm with Dallas Communities Organizing for Change. First question is for DA Watkins. I read in an article today in Truth Out that you're still entertaining the idea of merging the Special Investigation Civil Rights Unit into the Dallas Police Department under their Internal Affairs Unit. Common sense and just community consensus is that we don't need that under the Dallas Police Department's Internal Affairs Unit. We already have an Internal Affairs Unit that lacks procedural fairness for the citizen in an investigation situation. So I want to know, why is it that you are still entertaining that idea? And the second question is for Chief Brown. We talked about the Civilian Review Board. The Civilian Review Board, we pulled an open records request on when it was the last time that they actually subpoenaed an officer. Our Civilian Review Board has no power to affect any change except for recommendations that you don't have to listen to. So are you in favor of coming up with the community, working to strengthen the Civilian Review Board and modify it, because it hasn't changed over since in the past 20 years that it's been set up?
Sure, thanks. As it relates to the District Attorney's Office joining forces and investigating jointly with the Dallas Police Department, you can't believe everything you read in the newspaper. We have never said that we were going to join forces with the police department. That's not to say that we don't trust the things that they do. We're going to be independent. I've been an independent DA for 8 years. We're going to continue that, and this unit is going to be independent of the investigation that the police department does.
And yes, I would support helping craft whatever changes your group. We had that same comment from a gentleman, I don't think he's here today, it was an Hispanic gentleman at the last town hall, and he had some suggestions about inclusion of more different, I guess the bar at some point had some seats at the table on the Citizens Review Board, and that's a policy decision for the city council, not the police department, on those changes. But I'm willing to sit with you and help craft whatever changes and move what we can forward to the council to consider. But it's the city council's decision to make any changes that they deem appropriate.
Good evening. My name is Chaz Rogers. My son, Anthony Hudson, was murdered July the 23rd, 2011. I received injustice trial, and I tried to speak with Craig Watkins on numerous of times, and I have been denied discovery during the trial, and I've denied after the trial, and I deserve that information. He's a victim. He was not a defendant. And I have just been given the runaround. And it's been 3 years, and it's unacceptable for any parent to have to go through the extreme to get information. So what are you going to do about that in the DA's office to give the parents what they're looking for?
Was that a police shooting?
I don't know. No. It could have been. You haven't proved to me it was not.
Yeah, my understanding is that was not a police officer shooting.
No, you don't know that.
Yeah.
Because it was not exemplified during the trial. The gun, the bullet, and there was police weapons out there. So you cannot tell me it was not so.
We have some information here, Mr. Watkins.
Hey, here's the first assistant of the DA's office, and he can address that. Ms. Rogers, you know we met with you on numerous occasions. We gave you all the information that we could legally give you. I am sorry that you're not satisfied with the information that we gave you, but you're misrepresenting to this body. We gave you everything that we could legally give you. And we met, not only did I meet with you, the prosecutor, the prosecutor. Okay. The prosecutor who tried the case met with you. That prosecutor's administrative chief met with you. We had spent hours and hours meeting with you, trying to satisfy you. And I'm sorry that we weren't able to satisfy you, but we did everything legally possible to satisfy you. And we can't change that. That case was tried to a jury here in Dallas County, and that's all we can do.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. And we can get your information, ma'am, if you'd like to. Okay. Okay. I'm just offering that to you.
I don't need your information or nobody else. All I need is the file.
Okay. And Mr. Watkins, if, well, we can go on to the next. Freddie Haynes, I'm going to let you handle this moderating tonight.
30 seconds. My name is Rosalind Harrison. I am a member here at FWBC. My question is addressed to Chief Brown as well as DA Watkins. I am here crying out for justice for Jason Harrison, killed, murdered on June the 14th, 2014, okay? That was the first time ever a body cam was on the lapel of a Dallas police officer. One camera supposedly lost or misplaced, and the other, you failed to give us the footage of the video to the family. I'm not sure if we really want to see that video, but it's our right. It is our right. And it is our taxpayers' dollars that are keeping these officers on the clock. And you have the audacity after 5 days to put them back on the clock. How is that so? We are crying out as family, as victims of. We are the victims. I will die and I will live for my cousin. I will die here right today. I will die here right today.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Let's be fair to the person asking the question now.
He just assaulted me and grabbed me.
Oh my goodness.
Next question, please.
Here we go. My name is Roland Brazier. I represent the African Angels, and I have 2 questions. One, what is the policy for how many rounds are discharged from a police officer's weapon if he feels his life is in danger or if he feels that the suspect he stopped has a weapon? And the other question was, when did you take protect and serve off the cars?
Well, every department cars has different, but let me answer your first question. How many rounds does an officer, are we training an officer, or the policy says? We train our officers to use deadly force as a last resort, only to protect their lives or the lives of another. And we train, and our policy is written in a way where the officer can only use force to stop the threat, the action being taken to threaten that officer's life or a citizen's life. That's our policy. It's straightforward. It's a model policy. Other departments have looked at our policy and use it. It's a model policy. The issue is the courage to enforce it, the process to be in place for the case to be heard before a grand jury, and for many of us, the difficulty of when the grand jury doesn't rule in our favor. That's the process, is that not that the process is flawed or broken or needs, it's the courage to make sure the process is carried out, and then it's the ability to accept the grand jury's ruling, which is an independent body, and the grand jury doesn't always rule in our favor, yours or our officers. And so that's the whole process there, sir. And the protect and serve on our squad cars, I'm not sure we ever had that on our squad cars. We have a lot of other things about calling the 911, how to contact us, our website, but we've never had the protect and serve. Different departments have different things. Thank you.
Mr. Watkins, are you aware that if you find corruption in the Dallas Police Department, that you could call in the Texas Ranger?
Yes.
Yes. So do you think we need it or we don't need it?
Well,
the situation that's been going on here in Dallas?
Well,
overkill, killing people with no weapons and stuff. I've been jumped on. I've been falsely put in the penitentiary for no reason. My name is Roy Lee. I sent the chief of police. He got a letter. I called your office. Never did anybody. So I'm just letting you know that I do know the law and what's supposed to be done. You have some of the police officers that write up the police report wrong, and then people go to the penitentiary for no reason at all. We already know that because we've seen it on TV. The one that lied and said that the guy dashed at him with a screwdriver or something, and he didn't have none, and he didn't do it. So we already know that some of the police reports are written up in order for them to send the person to the penitentiary. And we really need to start working together, because with the Dallas Police Department and the way they handle their business and stuff.
So the incident that you described, the officer was fired and indicted, and it's awaiting trial, the incident.
I would just add that I would probably trust Chief Brown and the Dallas County District Attorney's Office as opposed to Rick Perry's Texas Rangers to make sure that we get things done correctly.
Next question, please.
Good evening. This question is for Chief Brown. My name is Kevin Felder. I am a real estate broker in Dallas, and I know for a fact that HUD for a number of years has had a officer next door program. Whether your officers choose to utilize the program is a personal issue. I'm also on the Government Affairs Committee at the Dallas Association of Realtors, and we would be more than happy to work with you if you would, during your meet and confer with your officers, with the unions, if you would push for officers to move into the city, because the Pew Center for Research has noted that officers that live in the city that they serve are more likely to be better officers and more respectful for the community in which they serve. The last point I'd like to make is, in the Dallas Morning News recently, it was noted that 78% of the Dallas police officers live outside the city of Dallas. So I'd like to hear your perspective, and I'd like to get with you and try to help to get some officers back into the city of Dallas.
Kevin, I agree with you wholeheartedly about not only what the research says, but I think it's just common sense that if we're able to encourage officers to live in the city, I think we have a better police force. And I've got my staff here. I think I got you still in my contacts, so I'll try to reach out to you soon on your ideas of what we do with HUD or with the realtor groups you're associated with to encourage some of that. But you're exactly right. You're right on point.
Juanita Wallace, Dallas Branch NAACP. I want to thank all of you for the service you rendered to our community. I have two questions. I heard the Chief Brown talk about the cameras. I want to know what are the rights when it comes to citizens videotaping or audio taping the police officers? And my second question is, who does the training for the officers? What kind of training? And are there training for bigotry traits that may exist within them before you hire them? Thank you.
So to make sure I get all that, Ms. Wallace, how are you? Good to see you again. We do have our own police academy. Some departments have a regional academy, but we give our own training, and it's by our staff, other officers trained. Do we have any pre-testing of biases? We don't have a test for bias. We have what's called a background that's pretty comprehensive that looks at previous jobs. It looks at your educational. We look at your references. We check on any past history of violations of the law. And so I think your point is, if we don't have a test for bias, we may be hiring the very problem that we're hearing about tonight. And I don't question that premise. I don't. But when the behavior hadn't been exhibited in some way, shape, or form that we can identify through a background investigation, what we're left with is no reason not to hire unless we see that behavior going forward in an 8-month-long. We have the longest police academy in the country, and we're looking for that behavior in our 8-month-long police academy. And then they're on probation again for another 6 months. So we have them in a training capacity where we can fire them at any time if they exhibit any of that behavior. And we have policies in place that has zero tolerance for bias. That is a terminating offense to racial profile, to exhibit bias in the way you treat people. And so we have barriers in place to address that, but directly, you're right. The premise that if we had a pre-test, maybe we could avoid having to watch people for this probationary period, but we just don't have a pre-test. And Dr. Wallace, I know you got your PhD, so if you have any pre-tests out there, please get that to me as soon as you can, and we'll look at it and see if we can put that in our hiring process. Very, very good premise. Very good point. Oh yeah, and the sheriff is right. We require psychological testing, but it's not a pre-test for bias, but it's a psychological test and a polygraph, but it's not a pre-test for bias, as you mentioned. And so I'd be curious to see what you got for us.
Yes, my name's Todd Fields, and we're in the back here. And
I'm sorry, she had a second part to her question. If you don't mind, Todd, what was the other second part? I didn't remember. Right, good point. Okay, Arlington PD is dealing with this now with a group that videotapes and audio tapes officers as they're out doing their job, traffic stops, on calls, and citizens have the right to videotape us. They have the right to videotape and audio tape us, and so we are consistent with that right to do it. So we don't try to stop citizens from audio taping, videotaping, and if you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't have a problem with it. So there you go.
Okay, my name's Todd Fields. I'm in the back here. I've got a social media deal for you that speaks kind of that worldview she was talking about that I'd love to share. Detective Ibarra and Eternal Affairs have it, but that's irrelevant at this point. I'm standing here with Miss Renee Douglas, whose son was one of the many shootings in August over in Pleasant Grove, and I was her son's employer, and we were together for 3 years, and we buried him in Paris 2 weeks ago. And basically I met with Detective Ibarra for 4 or 5 hours on Saturday morning. I'm confident as of now that a fair and just investigation is happening, per speaking with him. But you guys have a ton of communication problems. I mean, broken, ask Mascarian about my email to him. But what I want to do is we're going to, since he was buried in Paris, we're going to celebrate the life of Steve. We don't know what happened that day. You guys do, and we're going to trust you. We're going to trust you that comes to light. We're called to submit to authority and trust God, and that's what we're going to do. And but this Saturday at Second Saturday with the old DHA buildings, we're inviting every city official. Hopefully you've got it by now. It would depend on communication, but. This is going. We feel that we can lead the nation as holders going into departments and cities around the country. I mean, way less diverse in the city, including Seattle, Portland, or somewhere like that where it's about not diverse. But we invite you. I've been trying to partner for 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks now, and it was. And if these folks want to hear, I'll give it to you privately. I have a message of the worldview of your officers.
I have staff here that I get with you.
One of them. Sorry. One of them.
Okay, and I'm sorry for your loss. That was a tough situation, and if y'all don't recall, that was a gentleman who obviously was having a difficult time, kidnapped his kids, held a gun to the mother's head, and we had to use deadly force to protect ourselves. And no matter what, I'm sorry for your loss and sorry that that incident happened. And we'll partner with you in any way we can going forward to improve anything we can in our training or our policies. So we're open, even though we have tragedies, some good can come out of tragedies. And so we'll get our staff with you now to get your contact information.
The citing release law, House Bill 2391, that was passed in 2007, and I believe you guys actually did enforce it for a while, then stopped, and there's supposed to be talks of it being, coming again. I spoke with you before, David Brown. You said that you're working on it. When I spoke with your people, Craig Watkins, they said that you're not in opposition to prosecuting people that come in with a ticket for less than 2 ounces of marijuana. And Sheriff Louis Valdez, I believe you said that you support it because your jails are overcrowded. So the problem is, if everybody supports this, how come it's not being enforced yet? And one thing that different officers did tell me under David Brown is that you have an unwritten but understood policy that does not permit them to give tickets for less than 2 ounces. And if that is true, are you prepared to prosecute him? Because that isn't there something unlawful there, blocking the law from being enforced? And before I get off the mic, I am really against this meeting being held in a church, because state and church are not supposed to mix. When I tried to call to actually be a speaker, I was told that this topic was immoral. I was told that I am immoral, morally incorrect. Your sheriff is for it, David Brown is for it, Watkins is for it. So immoral, but they're on your stage, right? Okay, so that's why in this guy back here, I want him prosecuted for assaulting me. He just grabbed me back here. He works for the church, and they have a problem with me not liking this church and that guy. So all the people with microphones picking who they want to talk to, all right, are all, like the lady that got to talk for 5 minutes, she's a church member, all right? So no more state and church mix. He's going to get an assault charge in your church, okay? No more. And that's all. That's his answer about the House Bill 2390.
Okay, let me try to get a quick answer here. She's referring to a state law that went into effect in 2008, which allows officers at their discretion to write a citation for Class B misdemeanors, certain Class B misdemeanors, one of those being possession of small amounts of marijuana. And we had a pilot program to implement this back in 2007, 2008. It really wasn't cost effective. We only make about, let me recount the law. The law is you can write a citation for a Class B misdemeanor for marijuana when the only charge is marijuana possession of a small amount and the person lives in Dallas County. That's the way the law is currently written. And that's less than, we make 50,000 arrests a year in our police department. That's less than 200 arrests. And so we currently don't have a county ticket. We have a municipal Class C ticket, so you have to create a county ticket at a cost. Currently, the county doesn't have a processing system to process Class B county tickets, and so it's a cost issue. But on the other side, we arrest 50,000 people a year, and there's only 5,000 jail beds at the county, and it's probably less than that now, the jail bed space. And so there is a cost analysis to this, whether it makes sense or not, that we're currently discussing with the county and with the judges and with the DA's office. We haven't yet made a decision. We still need to touch our policymakers at the city council level on how to proceed here, but we'll present the cost analysis as well. And so I know it's a convoluted answer, but there's a lot of moving parts to it being more nuanced than just writing a ticket for low-level Class B amounts of marijuana. So that's the best answer I can give you right now.
We do have one. There's 31 cities in Dallas County, so we have to get an approval from the majority of them to put something like that in effect. There's something called the Dallas County Criminal Justice Committee, and at this time, there's a group, and several of the large departments are represented, the smaller departments are represented, and the middle-sized departments are represented, along with the DA's representative and ours and the defense bar. All of these are represented in that committee. And there's a subcommittee of that is looking into how we can make it work, and then have the committee approve it, and then it'll be easier to take it back to the other cities. Remember, it's not just Dallas. You're talking about Garland. You're talking about Mesquite. You're talking about Irving. You're talking about Farmers Branch. You know, all of these have to basically approve it before we can do it for the county. And there is a subcommittee that is trying to figure out several questions that came up concerning that, including when you write the citation and the person doesn't show up. And all of those issues are being considered by that subcommittee. I'm sorry? Yes. But the subcommittee is not. Just the general, the Criminal Justice Committee is meeting on Monday, but the subcommittee is not meeting there yet.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Webb, and I stand before you to say the reason why the meeting is here tonight is because I belong to one of the greatest churches in America. Pastor Haynes encourages his members to get involved. The other thing I want to say is that I am also from Dallas, Texas, and I went to the great James Madison High School, and let me tell you something, Chief Dyson would not be sitting up on that stage having a meeting with you people. I was here when Chief Dyson was the chief, and he never had a meeting with any of us. So I'm proud Craig Watkins prevented my son from doing 25 years for a robbery that he didn't do. I saw Chief Brown in the Olive Garden, and I winked at him. And Sheriff Lupe, when I vote, I see her all the time. You got a good group of people here. That's all I got to say.
make a big difference. But anyway, my question is to Chief Brown, Police Chief Brown, and to Sheriff Valdez. I'm deeply concerned about the militarization of our police forces, and as a citizen of Dallas, I'm very concerned about what is happening in my city. So I know that you can't give me exact figures off the top of your head, so I will be emailing you to the address, that email address that's been on the screen. But if you could give us a ballpark figure as to how much equipment, military equipment the city has, and how much money you have been given in grants to purchase that or anything else that you want to purchase.
Okay, the good news is that we didn't participate in any of the military programs that sent equipment here to Dallas. We just didn't. The equipment we have, our SWAT team has, we have armor-piercing vehicles to rescue citizens and officers when we have active shooters. The active shooter scenario is more prevalent than anything happening in law enforcement. It relates to high-powered weapons being used. Our officers do match the weapons that our suspects have. So the suspects have these high-powered weapons, and we have our officers that have rifles. But we would never use tear gas, SWAT, or any flashbangs to disperse a crowd expressing their First Amendment. We would never do that in Dallas as long as I'm chief. So, ma'am, I hope you are satisfied with that, but we are cognizant of the militarization of our police departments. We have actually decreased the number of SWAT officers and increased the number of community police officers since my tenure in 2010 to today. And we see community policing being the more prevalent, more successful way to police our neighborhoods than the SWAT military type of traditional policing.
We also have the armed carrier for the same purposes, to bring an officer in. If he's ever injured, we bring that in so that we can bring him out of it. One of the advantages that we have in the Sheriff's Department is that most of our officers have to work through the jail, and one of the things they learned a lot in the jail is how to verbally deal with a lot of crisis situations, because they learned to talk to the inmates. They have no weapons when they're in the jail. It's totally communication. So one of the benefits that we have is that they learn to communicate with people who are upset, angry, or hurt, or sad, or whatever. They learn that before they actually get out with the public. So we do have an advantage there. Grants are drying up. We have very few grants now. A lot of times we actually receive the grants for equipment and personnel. They're no longer there. We no longer have that advantage.
Yeah, Chief Brown and Sheriff Valdez, they famously say they can't arrest the criminal problem away, and we say we can't prosecute it away. So one of the things we did 2 years ago was form a community prosecution unit, where we actually go out in the community to address those issues that they deal with, to make sure that we never see a person come down to the courthouse that we have to prosecute. This is all, from the proactive standpoint to make sure that we can reduce crime, and secondly, make sure we're not prosecuting individuals because they made a mistake. Let's make sure they never make the mistake. And so this is, famously working well. You can look at the crime rate here in Dallas has gone down. It's because of these collaborative efforts that we put in place, and we'll continue to do that. But the reason we're having these meetings is because a lot of people just don't know that we're changing law enforcement.
Okay. My question is to Chief Brown. I have two questions. I'm Melissa Harrison. I am with the Harrison family. One of my questions is, what are you going to do for the difference of a mental challenged person and a regular civilian? That's a huge difference in how you treat the people. You can't treat a mental person the same way you treat somebody else. Right or wrong, indifferent, it doesn't matter. We have to find a way to work with that. And you're saying you have 200 body cams that you're putting out for the officers. Chief Brown, the question on that one is, how long is it going to take
for families to find that information out. I mean, 45 days, 95 days, what? I mean, it's crazy.
Yes, ma'am, you make very legitimate points. I'm not discounting the Harrison family's pain, you know, or your need to see the video and have your case adjudicated to the criminal justice system. Justice seems slow sometimes, and I don't not listen to your calls, right? So we have to present this case to the grand jury. And we have collected all the evidence, including video, and that's going to be not released to the public until it's presented to the grand jury. Well, it's the same thing. We can't segment out family from public. Once we release it to you, you can release it to whoever you want to release it to, and then it taints the grand jury one way or the other. It has to be objective, no tainting, no media sensationalism, and we'll, you know, accept the ruling of the grand jury. Once the grand jury rules, then we usually decide to release all the evidence. That idea of discovery, if somebody's charged, all that evidence is then released to, if a trial occurs, or if the grand jury no bills, then it's information that can be released to the public record. If there's a no bill, if it's a true bill, then it's discovery.
Let me say this, from a legal standpoint, as prosecutors, we have a responsibility to present an untainted case to a jury of 12 people. And so if it was released and say that this went on the news, then if the person's indicted, then they may have a defense to say that, well, that evidence shouldn't be used because the jury is tainted. And so what Chief Brown is saying is that it's not that we don't want to give you that information, but there's something called a legal process. And in order for us to be in a position to adequately pursue a prosecution, if that happens, if the grand jury indicts or not indicts, we need to be in a position to carry that case forward. And I understand what you're saying, that you guys want to see it. But in order for us to do what we need to do to make sure that justice is served, it's best that we don't release it until the grand jury makes a determination.
Yes, and we can never have enough training. The question was, what are we going to do with dealing with people with mental health issues and in the way we respond as a police department? We give more training than any department in the country currently, and we have since 2008. And we are currently discussing adding even more layers of training onto our officer training. We're dealing with not only the mentally ill, but how to de-escalate situations where we arrive and the person has been fighting and is, you know, high emotion. How do we as the department train our officers to not get up to that level, but to start de-escalating them even more? And that's the issue. Time and distance is our friend when dealing with people who are acting out emotionally and maybe not themselves. And so we currently have the more training than any department in the country on mental health. They come to us for our training program, but we are not accepting that as enough. We want to continue to expand our training not only in that area, but more importantly in the area of de-escalation.
Listen, I need you to help me with this. We have a lot of more people who have a lot more questions. Please limit your question to 30 seconds, okay, so that everyone can have an opportunity, respecting your pain and praying for you, but please help us.
30 seconds. Thank y'all again for coming. I really appreciate that. My name is James Bell. Just a couple of questions, primarily there for you, the Chief. Race plays a major part in our policing, arresting, and prosecution. In Dallas County, the weekend, right about the same time Michael Brown was shot, the Dallas police officer shot and killed an unarmed black man. The next day, they shot and killed a Hispanic brother with a screwdriver, alleging that they were in fear of their lives. Within 24 hours, a white boy in North Dallas shooting at the police, shooting at the fire department. Y'all saved the white boy's life and called in a SWAT team or something. You didn't kill him, you talked him down. My question, Chief, is how come y'all didn't kill the white boy? Second question, I am a lawyer. I have been practicing law for approximately 40 years, longer than any of y'all up there been in whatever business you're in. I go to the courthouse almost every day, Craig, almost every day. And I'm gonna tell you something, this is my question to you, Chief. I asked you once before, you danced around and didn't answer it. I want you to answer tonight. Do y'all ever arrest white folks? I'm serious. The 3rd and 4th floors, misdemeanor floors, never see any white boys. 5th, 6th, and 7th floor, nothing but blacks and browns. We got more white folks in here tonight than you ever have at the courthouse. So my question is, do y'all ever arrest white folks? I want to go to a church in North Dallas where the preacher, Freddie, like you, has invited folks in to talk about police department shooting white folks.
Okay. So after the Michael Brown shooting, we did have 2 shootings right after, and then we had the incident with the gentleman who expressed to be a sovereign citizen that we did not shoot, and he was white. But you wasn't correct on the shooting of the unarmed person being black. He was white. It was a white male that we shot that was unarmed after the Michael Brown shooting, and then we had the Harrison shooting after that. And so that wasn't correct. That wasn't a black male who was unarmed that we shot after the Michael Brown shooting. It was a white male that we shot that was unarmed that was attacking our officer. And so different circumstances, but I get your point. Too many African Americans in the criminal justice system. I get your point.
30 seconds, please. Good evening. Thank you guys for being here today. My name is Kay Richards, and I would just like to know what policy changes have you guys implemented since the Delisa Kelly missing persons? I know this week or last week there was a missing Caucasian woman in Plano, and they've got drones for her and EquiSearch. What policy changes has Dallas implemented since Delisa Kelly passed away that can help assist and find a missing person in Dallas? And also I would like to know, with the dash cams and the new body cams that you guys are going to be having, what policy, what kind of consequences will the officer face if they turn that dash cam or body cam off?
So I'm going to answer the last question first, then I'll get to the policy on Delisa Kelly. So we've had experience here when officers turning the in-dash car camera off, they were fired for turning it off. And that'll be the same action that I'll take as chief if they turn off the body camera on an action that we see where officers' misconduct is occurring, and they turn it off to hide or color the misconduct. So same action on the body camera as we did for the in-dash car camera. On the Delisa Kelly issue, if you all don't understand that, her family and some friends of her family are advocating for a different designation for people who are missing that are not Amber Alert qualified, or for the elderly, the Silver Alert qualified. So right now we only have this around the clock, kind of all the folks looking for them around the clock, but for young people and the elderly is a best way to describe it. And the family of Delisa Kelly is asking for the same thing for people who are missing that have some expression of distress. She called on 911, it sounded like she was in distress. She called back and said she was okay, but the family still felt like there was something, and she ended up being murdered. And we have been unable to find the person that murdered her. That case continues to be investigated. We're doing all we can. It hadn't run cold yet. We're following up on leads, ma'am, and we'll continue to looking for that suspect to hold him accountable and bring him to justice.
I have a question for the DA over there. My name is Donald Banks, and I'm from Dallas. I'm from Dallas. I went to school here, went to jail here. I'm from the old school too. I'm 70 years old. I've been trying to set up an appointment to talk to you. I'm talking about I really do need to talk to you. I got a bunch of paperwork that I need you to look at. I would appreciate if you would take time out. I done called, came down to your office. I don't want to talk to an assistant. I want to sit down and talk to you, Mr. Craig. I think we come up together. I think you out of East Dallas. Didn't you come up out of East Dallas?
I didn't understand what you said.
Doc, what's your question, man? We got 30 seconds.
My question is, I'm trying to set up an appointment to see you. You, not your assistant. I need to talk to you. I've been trying to do that for 2 years. I'm not on no parole or nothing like that. I'm a citizen. And it's very important.
Even if you were on parole, you're still a citizen, so don't qualify like that. It would be interesting to know what you want to talk to me about. And I have, a staff of 500 that may be able to help you better than I can. It may be best if you just call the DA's office, express what you need to talk about, and then we'll assign someone to deal with your issue.
Mr. Watkins, we have somebody here on the front row. Sir, if you can just raise your hand, and he will head back there to talk to you and get your information. We'll set up an appointment for you to meet with Mr. Watkins. Your answer is you will meet with Mr. Watkins.
Yeah, I can't see you.
He's getting you information,
I didn't want to see. I want to set up an appointment and talk to you one-on-one.
Yes, here, First Assistant Heath Harris, right in front of you, sir, is going to set up an appointment for you to talk to Mr. Watkins. You just can't talk to him personally right this minute, but he will set up an appointment for you to get into the office. I make sure his appointments are set, so we'll get you an appointment. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Reggie Ruffin. I'm with the Texas Males Foundation. I wanted to discuss this because we discussed this briefly Monday, Craig, but I definitely want to ask this question best to everybody. Everyone knows about the rash of domestic violence incidents that have been going on and how that's been basically plastered all over the news. Now the face of domestic violence has to be black men now. And what my question, like in 2 instances with mine, I was wrongfully accused both times. But when I tried to file complaints to get them answered, to try to prosecute the women who tried to, who attacked my family and everything, nothing has been done even to this day. Now I know I only got like a couple of seconds to try to get something answered for an issue that's been going on for years now, and it hasn't been done. That's the reason why there's such a disconnect here, because we want equal justice. We want the same things you guys say y'all want to do, but I had five constitutional amendments that was violated in my case. And as far as the injury to a child case, it showed that corporal punishment is exempt from law. Now, if I knew that and figured that out, why is it that the police department didn't do that, do their due diligence in investigating these issues? There is a process called investigation. So I'd like to know what's up.
Yeah, I don't know what year that was when it happened to you. And secondly, it's kind of really difficult for us to talk about specific cases. We're trying to address a broader issue because I don't know anything about your case sitting up here on this dais. And Chief Brown or Loopy won't know anything about your case as to why it happened a certain way. So the best thing to do is basically contact the DA's office, contact the police department, contact the sheriff's department, hire a lawyer, and we can figure out what happened in your case. But this is not the proper venue for us to talk specifically about your case, because a lot of folks don't understand that we get 100,000 cases filed at the district attorney's office per year. And it would have to be called to our attention to link into it.
And I have staff here. If y'all come on up now and earn that overtime you're making, I wish I could make overtime on this. Well, it's a long day. But my staff is coming to get your information. We'll follow up on our end, and then we'll make the facilitate the contact with the DA's office if necessary.
Okay. Right here. 30 seconds.
Yes, my name is Lola Jones. My son was murdered September 2008. I tried to speak with you, Mr. Watkins. Police never contact me. Chief Brown, you wasn't the chief at the time. The officer that killed my son, he went on to kill another young man the next year. Then he just recently got in trouble behind hitting one with a crowbar, but I think what got him fired, he made a comment to another lady, I believe a white female, and you all released him. All I want is closure. I know it's been 2008, but I need closure. I need healing. And all I want to do is talk to one of you all, somebody in charge. No one never came to me from the police department concerning my son. I found out at work, and I live up Lancaster Road, but my job had to tell me.
I'm sorry for your loss, and we got our folks coming to you right now.
Good evening. Hello, I'm Esther Davis. I'm the former chair of the Senior Affairs. I have a very simple question. And I do want to say, first of all, thanks to Pastor Haynes and to the panel for your outstanding representation to our great city. My simple question is, I don't want us to leave here without talking about seniors. I want to talk about what the city is doing about scams for our city, for our citizens, for the greatest generation, and how we're taking care of those scams and mistreatment of our seniors.
I can just say from the district attorney's perspective, we started an elder abuse unit, and it's not just about physical abuse, it's about financial abuse. In fact, we're having an unveiling of it tomorrow with the senior source that will explain how you can file a case with the district attorney's office or the police department for us to look in how seniors are being taken advantage of from not only a physical standpoint, but a financial standpoint.
And the police department is on point with this as well. We're partnering with the senior source and making sure that our seniors are taken care of. And I could just tell you one of the big issues is with family taking advantage of their senior folks, and a responsible person in that family better get with the police department and their DA and understand the steps they need to take to protect their mothers and fathers from sometimes other family members taking advantage of them, particularly financially. I had to deal with this with my mother, and I didn't understand a lot of things myself I needed to do to make sure her financials were taken care of, make sure her home and car and all of her possessions were taken care of as her health fails. And so it is really important for, Esther, you really make a good point. You touched on a good subject here for everyone to understand how to take care of their moms and dads and grandparents when they're the only responsible family members sometimes. And I want my staff to get with you, Esther, and get your information, and we can work more closely together on what else we need to be doing on this issue. Great point.
I'm Coral Kennedy, and I'm with No More Violence. My son, I was at the last town hall meeting, was killed October 12, 2009. And I have a question for you, Chief Brown. I asked you the last time. When do the Dallas Police Department come to a mother and tell her that her son is dead because he was in the custody of the Dallas Police Department?
Ma'am, this was 2009. We followed up on this case, I believe. Cindy, remind me. I thought we talked with you right after we did. Okay, I want to make sure. And we'll talk with you again, or as many times as you need us to talk with you. But in 2009, our investigators documented that they did talk with you at the time it happened. And all I can go by is the notes. You know, I wasn't personally involved in your case in 2009. I wasn't chief yet, so I don't recall your calling me. But after the last town hall meeting, we talked with you. But we'll get back with you. Our folks are here. We'll talk to you again and answer whatever questions you have.
Well, were you listed as a witness at all?
No, sir, I was not. My daughter started the case off and talked about my son. They just trashed my son's character starting out. It was like you all wasn't working for me, you were working for the state. And I fought for my son.
Did you testify in the case?
No, I did not.
Okay.
And so that is the ethics of the Dallas Police Department and the DA Department.
Yeah.
I called your department numerous amount of times and chief. So, yeah, I need y'all to get with me, and I want to meet with you and thank you and God bless you.
Okay. Hey.
Hello.
Tony, can you give her a card? Okay.
Hello, my name is Melanie Forge, and I have a question for the police chief, please. I would like to know, why are you only going as far back as 2003? And the reason I ask that question is because in 2001 and 2002, the Dallas Police Department went on a killing rampage. It was even called a season of killing black men. And my nephew, Keenan Forge, was killed. He was on his way to work in a single car accident, and he was stopped. The paramedics came, they left him there. He was stopped by the Dallas police. 2 police officers beat him to death and did a chokehold on him that killed him. He only weighed, soaking wet, 110 to 120 pounds. My sister, who is not here tonight, in her absence, I want to ask, why won't you go further back than 2003? Because my sister has never had justice, nor has she had closure. My nephew was buried without his brain. We have suffered, and they didn't just kill my nephew, they killed my son as well, because my son was suffering with a brain tumor where he had the victory, but he gave up the will to live because he and Keenan was raised like brothers. When these policemen go on these rampage, they need to stop and think. There are other lives involved in this. Other people are hurt. We have never had closure. We had the Dallas police coming against us. My phone was tapped. People would call me and get the Dallas Police Department. This is serious. This has got to stop. Ferguson, Missouri was a wake-up call. And it's time to wake up.
We're not opposed to going back further, but more specifically, we want to go back and go over your case with you. We'll get your information. If it's 2000, 2001, we should still have that information about that case, and we can update you, and we're willing to meet with you and talk to you about the details of what happened, what transpired. If you never got talked to, I apologize. We should have, back in 2000, had done that. So we will get with you and get your information and make sure that follow-up is done.
30 seconds.
Okay. I heard today where, dogs that are being shot by officers, there's going to be a policy to remedy that situation. It seems like, the department is on top of that. So, anyway, I just want to and I have a solution. I don't know if you all understand how it relates to this situation, but we have to speak the language that's going to make the change. And the language usually involves money, because money talks, right? Okay, so we've got to stop spending our money with these big corporations and conglomerates that support these stand your ground laws, to get them enacted through lobbyists. It is related. Look on the website with ALEC, A-L-E-C. That's an organization that has all these different companies. And keep your money in your pocket when it comes to these companies. Okay, and you've got a lot of power by doing that. Thank you.
Man, I'm so grateful it's in a place like this. Much love to you, Freddie Haynes, as well as District Attorney. You
said that you've been asked the question on many occasions, how do you do it? I'm grateful to hear because Habakkuk cried out, how long will we cry out against injustice and our voice not be heard? How do you make a father of a 21 and a 20-year-old young man confident that when their son is pulled over, that they will not get shot for reaching for their phone to say, Daddy, I'm getting pulled over, what do I do? How do you do it, Chief? How do you make a father tell his son to pull over and hand over your license and registration, but don't get out of the car. Don't allow them to search the car. But then you say, wait a minute, you might have to get out of the car because you got people in 40 that pull their pistols out on you and say, get out and bag up to us. How do you create some type of rapport with a father when they have children that they're scared for their lives? Because only one more child is going to get killed for somebody like me say enough is enough. And I don't think in my own hands.
We show up in the community like we are here tonight and listen to you tell us how we do it. And we take your name and information and talk to you about you become involved with the solution. One, I recounted, I don't know if you were here when I first got up, talked about all the policies, programs, discipline that we've done since I've been chief. We talked about the challenges going forward, utilizing body cameras to get things on tape to address officer misconduct. And we stand firm on our principles here and have the courage to terminate officers that are not consistent with our policies, and we connect with the community like we are about what concerns specific you have that we can follow up on. And I want to encourage you all when not just you, sir, but everyone here, when you're mistreated by a police officer, file a complaint. It creates a record. By creating a record, you establish a history that the officer has so that we can take the appropriate action because of that history. When you let it go and think that nothing will ever be done, you actually inhibit the solution you cry out for by not reporting. You know, so you have to report. I think body cameras, things that's going to change our profession very quickly. You know, we're starting with 200, but we want to have 1,000 by the end of next year out in patrol. The experience from departments who have all of their officers with body cameras is that complaints go down, use of forces go down, police shootings go down, that you get a different outcome when everyone realizes the conduct is on tape. Both the suspect and the police officer realize it's on tape, because some suspects are not doing what they say to you all that they're doing. When we see it on tape, that is a great equalizer on what really happened.
We have 10 minutes left, so please, again, keep your questions quick.
My name is Janet Boutte. Thank you, Pastor Haynes, for having us here tonight. My question is, they spoke earlier about the storefronts. The storefronts, I worked at the police department from 1991 to 2006. Those storefronts helped a lot of those children, youth, because I was there. I was there helping, assisting with little kids, being with the Boy Scouts, helping with senior citizens, and helping them not being able to go through scams. So my thing is, caseworkers were in those storefronts. Will we get caseworkers in those storefronts again?
No, ma'am. Storefronts are not an effective use of your tax dollars. It stagnates officers. We want officers patrolling your neighborhoods, protecting you, not sitting inside a room waiting for you to come to them. We need to be in the community, listening to what's happening in the community, responding to these drug houses, responding to these suspects trying to break in your home, trying to rob you, and you can't do that in a building. So we went away from storefronts. What we did, though, we do still have the caseworker positions, but we have them in the community. We have them responding to your concerns from a proactive standpoint, not sitting and waiting for something to happen. We have them creating programs for our kids in the rec centers and the libraries and our schools. It is a much better place to be, to try to be proactive, to prevent crime from happening in the first place.
30 seconds.
All right. I got my stopwatch on. Okay, my question is, I've served on approximately 3 grand juries. I employ and I ask everybody to commit themselves tonight, and I talk really fast, so I'll be done in 30 seconds. Call your local judges, get on a grand jury. But Craig, my thing is when you have some of them are probably not here, assistant DAs that come in and say during grand jury when they come to present, and they re-victimize the victim. They re-victimize the family. Some of these families I work with on the media thing when their sons have gotten killed. We've got to do something to get more African Americans on these juries. I implore, if you're African American, call your judges and get on a jury. Get on the grand jury. Therefore, you will have first-hand knowledge of what's going on. But my thing is, we've got to do something because some of your assistant DAs are re-victimizing the victim. So I've served on 3 grand juries, and I know how it goes because Debbie opened up talking about how grand juries work. People, ladies and gentlemen, there is a process to the grand jury. So call and get on the grand jury. Therefore, you will have first-hand knowledge.
Yeah, my question is for Mr. Watkins, and it follows this young lady's statement about the grand jury process. I know that basically it's about 18% of the population of Dallas County is black. What percentage of your grand jury population is black or Hispanic, for that matter?
Yeah, first of all, I don't control the grand jury, and so it's not my grand jury process. It's the felony judge's grand jury's process. So they actually choose a grand jury, so I couldn't tell you the percentage because I have nothing to do with that. And I don't know if we have a judge in the audience, a felony court judge in the audience, but they make the determination of who serves on the grand jury, but you have to be proactive so you can serve on those grand juries so you can be picked.
Hello, I want to say thank you all for being here, and I appreciate your professionalism up there. I had a question about, you mentioned earlier that you guys have a monitoring system for use of force. Do you have anything set in place that shows a disproportionate amount of officers arresting or coming in contact with minorities? Also, do you have anything in regards to kind of breaking the code of silence within the department that you guys have, as well as protection for whistleblowers in your department?
Yes, all of that, the answer is yes. So specifically to do we have anything to break the code of silence? We had an incident where an officer just got indicted that was turned in by another one of our officers for use of force. And so we have I believe we have broken this cycle of this silence, this code of silence. I believe that's a thing of the past. Not that we still don't maybe have some people still on the department that's been around that might do that, or maybe even young officers that believe you protect your partner at all costs even when they do something wrong, but we will hold them accountable. I'm committed to that. In addition to that, your other questions was regarding what, ma'am? You had two others? Right, use of force, reporting that tracks their contact with different races, blacks, Hispanics, and their use of force. Our use of force does recount all the facts regarding use of force, the race of the victim, the race of the officer, what force was used, and it tracks it over time. And we can compare this year to last year, this month to last month. We can compare parts of town. So if the Oak Cliff part of town has more use of force issues than say the Northeast Dallas part of town, we can track that as well, and we address those inconsistencies from month to month and from year to year, and we'll be publishing that information for everyone to see next month. In November. Yes, the state requires a racial profiling report of all cities. Senator Ross West put that into effect several years ago, and that report is published as well and is presented to the City Council every March for the public.
It's also online, I believe, on the state system. You can actually go to the department and find out what the racial profiling is. And I would like to say, in one recent incident that we had, the victim reported what the officer did, and we found out there was 2 other officers that actually were aware of it. All 3 were charged. Not only the person who committed the offense, but the 2 others who saw it and said nothing. So all 3 were taken up for charges.
John Henderson. Now my question is to the police chief and the DA. For people that's mentally challenged, do you have a unit that specializes in handling people that has a mental ill? Second question is, instead of 72 hours, why can't the officer surrender his badge and gun within that 24 hours period until the investigation is complete, to where family members can have closures and to get the real truth on what happened? All this covering up saying there was 72 hours, why not make it 24 hours? That way that police officer and his buddy cannot lie or falsify a police report.
So as it relates to mental health and mental illness, we have actually 2 mental health courts, one in the felony and one in misdemeanor, and we actually have a section within the district attorney's office where we have prosecutors that are specialized in dealing with mental illness.
And all of our officers receive training on how to deal with mental health issues in the community. We started out with just a small group with this training, and we learned very quickly everyone needed this training. And I talked about your second concern about the 72-hour rule. Constitutionally, your idea just won't hold ground. We'll be in court and we'll lose on trying to enforce something that's not constitutional. The officers have a right to remain silent. The officers have a right to discovery. I understand your perception that officers will just get their stories together, and you just got a constitution in the way of what you want to do. It applies to everybody. Please, too.
Let's take 2 more questions, okay? 2 more.
Good evening, DA, Chief, and Sheriff. Pastor Haynes, can we put that unit back together? The gentleman was speaking of the mental health unit. Matter of fact, I used to serve in that unit several years ago with the county, and that's all we did. It was just a specialized unit. We went out and all of Dallas County, from Dallas Police Department, all different agencies call on a mental health issue. It's a totally different than the police issue, totally different. You got to handle them with kids' gloves. And then we took them out to Parkland to get some help, mental evaluation, and then it went on from there. Thank you.
Okay. My name is E.D. Charles. To me, it's almost being a citizen is almost an insult to me for us black people to have to be here to talk on this subject, but we find it necessary. My concern is simply this. It appears to me that the police culture, in that culture, there's a tendency to brutalize people of color, are more prone to have police brutality. Now, my question to you is this, to anyone on the panel. Are you doing any research or any studies to determine what is the core cause of this attitude toward black people and people of color that come from the police department and how they have to go through the criminal justice system? And if so, what have you discovered and what prescription are you doing to make changes so that there can be justice for all?
We have done quite a bit of research on police training. It speaks to your issue in a different way. We believe how we treat people is the main thing. And we train our folks on how to talk to folks, how to resolve conflict. We just need to do more of it. We need to be on the leading edge of new ideas in this area. I think some of our best solutions come from criticism from the public. We listen to you and we integrate your criticisms into our training programs. That's why we have our command staff here listening for opportunities to improve further all of our, people are people, and we're in the people business. I don't know that you can paint everybody with a broad brush, that every cop's this way or every cop's that way. I think you centralize your training, you take everybody through it, and I talked about this, you set the tone by terminating folks for behavior you just will not accept. And that's what we've done more than any other chief that you all have seen. We've had the courage to terminate folks. You know, I invited our union, some of our union bosses here to listen to this, because on the other end of this spectrum is a high level of criticism from my union folks for terminating employees. And so it's a balancing act for me, because you got to continue to keep morale high for people to do this job. Not everybody can do this job, put their lives on the line for other folks they don't know, but you don't want anybody working for you that mistreat folks. And so you got to take a strong stand and terminate them when you find that. And that's what we're willing to do, and that's why we're here to listen to you, because I think there are some ideas that we can integrate into our training that I've heard tonight. And so we want to continue to keep our ears open to listening to the community.
Thank you very much. I just want to throw this out because I think it's important, and what Dr. Wallace said I think we need to really be aware of. There is a problem as it relates to black people, brown people, and the police departments, and that's across the country. And unfortunately, it appears to be systemic. So I recommend that every department, including this one, have racial sensitivity training, because racism is still a part of the fabric of this country. And if we don't get that, then we're not getting to the root cause of what's going down. So I want to throw that out as we get ready to wrap it up. I also want to say this. I pray for and recognize and respect the pain that is in this room. There are so many individuals. We have a history with police that ain't positive. And in too many instances, justice has never been served. And so I appreciate your courage in still fighting for the legacy of your loved one, and you deserve to be heard. And I thank you very much for being here. I also want to say a word of thanks to our panel, because this wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. And so I want to thank you, Chief Brown, Sheriff Valdez, District Attorney Watkins, who came to me and pleaded with me, can we have this kind of town hall setting? So I want to thank all of you for this. My prayer is this ain't over. We have to continue in the dialogue. I think we should acknowledge all of the police officers who are here tonight. Thank you so much for your presence, for your courage, and our belief that there are those who want to do the right thing. So thank you very much. Again, I hope this ain't it. If this is it,
it's not.
Then we just played games.
It's
and
not.
So I thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for your service and for your leadership. I'm sorry we couldn't get to every question, but we could be here all night, and you know that. So this won't be the last time, but again, thank you very much.
Thank you, and I just want to remind you, the questions again can be sent to dpdtownhall@dallascity.com. They put it up on the screen. If you've forgotten it, you can come up to me and get it. dpdtownhall@dallascity.com, because if you didn't get your question asked here tonight, you will not be ignored. It will be answered. We are listening, and there will be more town hall meetings. Chief Watkins will reach out to other police departments, other municipalities in the surrounding areas, and hold it in different suburbs, because it's not just a problem for the city of Dallas, as Pastor Haynes just said. So we appreciate everything tonight, everybody being here and putting all of this out on the table. You can go to live.dallasda.com and you can see this town hall meeting in its entirety. We've been live streaming this from the DA's office the whole night, live.dallasda.com. So if you can't remember that, I'm right up here if you need to speak, and if you need to speak with any of our assistant district attorneys. We don't want anybody to go home feeling like you weren't heard tonight and that we don't care about what you think and what you feel. Thank you so much, and everybody have a wonderful evening. You want to end in prayer? That's Pastor Haynes. We began in prayer. Pastor Haynes, we have a request to end in prayer here, and so we'll bring up the pastors. Also, we have the J.L. Turner Legal Association to know your rights.
Thank you very much. I'm Frederick Barrow, former president of J.L. Turner. Thank you again to the panel. We have many of these in the back, right behind where the video equipment is. If you need one, please get one. And I want to thank Malik Aziz from the National Black Police Association for bringing these. This is fantastic material on what to do if you're stopped by the police. So thank you again, and thank you again, Pastor.
Thank you. Shall we pray? Oh God, we thank you so much for this night. I pray now for healing for hurting families. I pray in a special way your blessings of direction, wisdom, and protection upon a community that has suffered from so much violence and injustice. I pray, oh God, for our public servants, that you would protect them, keep them, grant them wisdom, direction, and strength as they, oh God, are used as servants to make this a just and peace society for all. Now as we go our respective ways, give us traveling mercy. May we rest peacefully tonight and wake up energized tomorrow to make a difference in this world. In Jesus' name, amen. Bless you.